This is Chasing the Horizon, a podcast by, for, and about motorcyclists. Welcome to Chasing the Horizon, a podcast by, for, and about motorcyclists, brought to you by the BMW Motorcycle Owners of America. Subscribe in iTunes or stream from the website at bmwmoa.org/podcast. My name is Wes Fleming, and thanks for joining us for the last episode of 2017. Before we get going with the news, I want to apologize real quick for this episode being slightly delayed. I didn't realize Christmas Day was on an episode day when I set up the schedule back in August, and I spent the weekend with my family instead of putting the podcast together. I know, shame on me. Here we are, it's Wednesday, the 27th of December, and 2017 is rapidly passing into the rearview mirror. I've had a lot of fun doing the podcast, but 2017 was kind of a rough year for me and my family, so I want to offer thanks and appreciation to everybody who helped us through it, especially the folks who believed in me when I said I wanted to start a podcast. The welcome and support for the podcast has been truly overwhelming, and I can't thank you enough for listening. Now let's get to the news. Harley-Davidson is apparently taking the 2017 American Flat Track Racing Series personally as they prepare for the 2018 season. You may remember that Indian fielded a brand new flat track race bike, the FTR 750, based on their very popular Scout model. And Indian's new wrecking crew, consisting of Jared Meese, Brian Smith, and Brad Baker, swept the podium for the season championship. Meese clinched his overall victory at a race sponsored by Harley in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. The Grove half-mile track there is about a half hour's ride from their factory in York, Harley's factory in York, that is. In response to Indian's stunning performance in the flat track series, Harley-Davidson announced a cash contingency plan for 2018 that is well over and above anything they've done before. The way contingency works is like this, basically. You have factory racers and you have people who are not factory racers. They're called privateers. The factory racers are just that. They ride for the brand. They get paid by the brand and their bikes are supported by the brand. They have a steady paycheck throughout the whole racing season, sometimes throughout the whole year, and they get first pick of the choicest parts and spares so their bikes stay in total tip-top racing condition. Privateers get basically nothing. They fund themselves either through their own efforts or by getting out and pounding the streets to get their own sponsors. And sometimes the factories will offer them discounts on parts, engines, stuff like that. But not always. Most of the big factories have race contingency plans to help out the privateers. So if a privateer wins a race or makes it onto the podium, meaning first, second, or third place, the factory kicks them a little cash or an extra discount or something like that, some kind of monetary benefit. That's what Harley announced then, their contingency payout plan for 2018. So there's 18 races in the American Flat Track Series, and Harley announced that they will make available a maximum of $31,250 per race in the American Flat Track Series. The rider has to be on one of their XG 750R or XR 750 bikes, but if they win a race or if they win the race, they get a $10,000 check from Harley. If they finish below first, they get less money, and that extends usually past the podium. A lot of times, the contingency plans will be for the top 10 places or something like that. With 18 races over the course of the season, Harley could be on the hook for $562,000 throughout the season, $500,000. In comparison, Polaris, the company that owns Indian motorcycles, is only putting up $18,500 per race. A first-place privateer gets a payday of $5,000 from Indian. So over the course of 18 races for Indian, that's a max payout of about $333,000. So we've already witnessed the rebirth of this Harley-Indian rivalry on the flat track. And Indian absolutely threw down the gauntlet with this FTR 750 race bike. Harley designers, builders, and riders really have a lot of work to do if they want to prevent Indian from repeating their championship podium sweep in the next season. And putting up all that cash for the privateers shows that they're pretty serious about it. I guess we'll see what happens on the track in 2018. Switching over to Triumph, we're going to talk about Triumph here. Triumph released their sales figures numbers last week for their fiscal year. Fiscal years are weird business things, but Triumph's fiscal year ends in June, so their fiscal numbers run through from the 1st of July through the 30th of June, 30th or 31st, whichever June has. So their worldwide revenue rose $122 million, and that got them all the way up to $667 million for their worldwide revenue. They sold 7,151 more motorcycles in that time than the fiscal year before, and that raised their total sales numbers to 63,404 motorcycles. Now, Triumphs are a UK company. Most of their motorcycles are built in the UK right now. They are gearing up factories in India, but they sold 86.1% of their motorcycles outside of the UK, which makes sense. You know, the UK is a relatively small country. For anybody that's a fan of Triumph, none of this is really surprising news. They put out 5 new bikes in that fiscal year. The Street Triple with the bigger engine, 2 new adventure bikes, the Tiger 800 and 1200 updates, a Bonneville Speedmaster, and the Bobber Black, which a bunch of folks just absolutely flipped over. Triumph has a really firm grip on the retro market, with its various Bonneville and Bobber bikes, but they don't really sit back on that. The new Street Triple looks fantastic, and Triumph is obviously paying attention to the highly lucrative adventure bike market. Triumph is also going to be supplying engines to the Moto2 racing series, which is part of the whole MotoGP world. That's a really big deal, and it shows that there's much more to Triumph than their cool-looking Bonnevilles. There's no news about the motorcycle industry in India in this episode, but I will give you some news about the motorcycle industry in Asia in general. This may have slipped under the radar of most industry publications and podcasts, but it's big news if you ask me. Honda is moving its premium scooter production from Thailand to Indonesia. I know those don't sound like they're big motorcycle or scooter producing countries, but our perception of them as such is kind of beside the point. With Harley-Davidson's plans to build its Street 500 and 750 bikes in Thailand, we know that Southeast Asian countries are at least on the radar of manufacturers outside Japan. Indonesia, however, isn't a country most people think of when they think of where a motorcycle or scooter gets built. Honda's moving its premium scooter production to Indonesia then, to a factory in Sunter, which is at the northwestern tip of the island called Java. Java is about the same physical size as North Carolina, but while North Carolina has a population of a little over 10 million people, over 141 million people live on the island of Java. That's about 57% of the population of Indonesia, which is all islands. So you can imagine how many scooters they sell there in a year. I couldn't track down hard sales numbers just for Indonesia, but I found several sources that put the number of motorcycles and scooters on the road in all of Indonesia at over 70 million. So think about that. If the population of Java alone is 141 million, and they've got 70 million motorcycles and scooters in all of Indonesia, that's a really high density of two-wheeled transportation. So Honda moving production of their premium scooter line to Indonesia is a smart move. Doing it in a factory really close to central Jakarta is going to allow them to have access to worldwide shipping lanes and enable them to cut the prices of some of their scooters by as much as 30%. So this is a huge move for Honda, even if it's not something that Americans are going to pay close attention to. So that does it for the news. Cycle News is on their annual 2-week hiatus, but that doesn't mean you can't head over to their website at cyclenews.com and subscribe to their free weekly motorcycle news magazine. Tell them Wes from Chasing the Horizon sent you. And I'm here today with a guy from Michelin, and I'll let him introduce himself, and then we'll get to talking about motorcycles and tires and all sorts of fun stuff.
All right, cool. Thanks, Wes. My name is Randy Richardson, again with Michelin Motorcycle Tires. I'm a marketing manager in our two-wheel group, so I work on both motorcycle and bicycle tires. And I've been with Michelin 26 years, have a lot of pride in the brand, and appreciate the opportunity to come chat with you today. Thanks.
So you've been with Michelin since you were relatively young.
Relatively
young.
Not
that old.
Yeah, 50, be 51 in September.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long have you been riding motorcycles?
Since the age of 4. Got a dirt bike for my 4th birthday and have been in love with motorcycles ever since.
Good. And you stay with mostly dirt, or you ride street too?
A little bit of street, but 90-95% of my time is in dirt.
Gotcha. And what's the bike you're riding now?
I currently have, for street, I have a 2016 KTM 1190 Adventure R, and I love that thing both on-road and off. Off-road bikes, I have a 07 KX250, 02 CR 125. Do some vintage hare scramble racing with my dad. Have an old 1975 Husqvarna we race, and so a mix of everything. Yeah.
So you're real good at changing tubes along with the tires.
I used to manage our off-road motorcycle racing for Supercross and motocross. So yeah, I've personally changed thousands of Michelin motorcycle tires and tubes and bib mousse.
Nice.
Solid foam inserts, yeah.
So you said Supercross and motocross, and I know a little bit about road racing. I know nothing about those things. What's the difference between motocross and supercross?
Motocross is what came over to the U.S. from Europe in the late 60s, let's say, and it was more open terrain, natural hillside, and elevation changes and so on. So that still exists. That's a 12-race series in the U.S. each year. Supercross is the Americanized version of that, where it's been since the late 70s. They started putting that inside stadiums so that it's easier to pull in more consumers to watch and everything. That's a 17-race series that's like January through May. So two different racing series, similar. Supercross are all man-made tracks inside the stadiums, and motocross still embraces that heritage of natural terrain and outside more rural areas.
Okay, cool. The on your KTM, I have to assume you use Michelin tires. Which ones do you keep on that?
I will be very candid and very honest. It came with a different brand of tire. That's original equipment
tire,
the OEM tire, and they've lasted me about 3,000 miles. But I'm extremely excited that the new sizing of Anarchy Wild that will be available commercially in fourth quarter of 2017. I currently have one of them sitting at my desk back at the office, and I can't wait to get home and mount it up and improve the performance of my motorcycle for
awesome.
Sure.
Yeah, because that's the 1190 has a 21-inch front?
Yes, a 21-inch front, and it's the 150, 70, 18 rear.
Which is kind of a normal size rear.
It is. It's a normal size rear, but in overall fitment, it's a smaller sizing within the segment of adventure touring, so that's why we bring it to the market commercially later. We wanted to make sure that we have all the conventional 17-inch sizes that you have on a lot of the BMW GS models and everything. So that's the way we come to market with the most popular tire sizes first, and then make the other ones for the fitments that are a little bit less common. Yeah.
Now, have you ever had a chance to ride a GS?
I have. What opened my eyes from off-road motorcycle riding for 40 plus years was some coworkers and I from the two-wheel group at Michelin. We all went and did the GS riding school in Greenville, South Carolina, which is, of course, where Michelin's headquartered as well.
Right, it's not far from headquarters.
Not far at all. So it's like kind of a team-building thing that we did. We got to go and do that school. That opened my eyes to adventure touring and actually just expanded my love for motorcycles. So we rode the R1200 GS there, and I was greatly impressed by the performance and what you could do with that big and that heavy of a motorcycle. It was really cool. So that was a great opportunity for sure.
Cool, yeah. I ride an R1200 GS most of the time. When it doesn't need a clutch, which is what it needs right now. And I have Michelin tires on mine. They're not Pilot Road. They're called. Are they Pilot Roads?
Do you ride? So you have a GS, but do you ride off road much or not?
No,
okay,
not
so
really.
you're probably using our Michelin Pilot Road 4 Trail.
Right, Pilot Road 4 Trail. I couldn't remember if it was Pilot Road or Pilot Trail.
Yeah, Pilot Road 4 Trail, which is within our Pilot Road family. Pilot Road 4 family, and engineered to provide optimum wet, dry, and on-road performance, 100% on-road performance for the GS rider that's spending all the time on pavement.
Yeah, and so I'm looking for a bike to ride in the dirt because I've got my GS is just set up straight for road use, it's just designed for that. And putting the Pilot Roads on it was kind of an eye-opening thing for me because I've always used, I guess they call them 80-20 tires, and the standard used to be Can I say another company's name?
Heck yeah.
The standard used to be the Michelin Tourances, but they came out with the Tourance Next.
The Metzler.
Metzler, right.
Tourance, yeah.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
The Metzler Tourance, they came out with the Tourance Next. I didn't really like those tires too much, so I wanted to branch out and try something else. And the shop I work at, we sell a ton of PR4s.
Okay. And
when I found out they came in the sizes for my GS, I got to try them because we were getting people that have these big, heavy BMWs, K1600s, the loaded up touring R1200 RTs, and they're running the PR4s, and they get 8, 10, 12. Some of them, we had one customer that got 10,000 miles out of his front and 12,000 miles out of his rear, and he's not the daintiest rider. You know, he gets on that right wrist quite a bit. So that was the first thing I noticed about the PR4s is that the mileage is really impressive, especially compared to a lot of the competitor tires. What is it about how those are made, or the compounds that they're made with, that kind of gives them that extra longevity over normal tires, I guess? Yeah,
one of the things that we do always with Michelin, we call it our total performance promise, and so we try to provide. It's our intent to provide the maximum wet grip, maximum dry grip, and not sacrifice longevity. So it's a target. Could we make a tire that would last twice as long as our existing tires? Sure, but we compromise some other things. So we try to find a healthy balance in that. We use silica rubber compounds quite often in a lot of our tires to provide a very quick warm up, so the tire comes up to temperature very quickly. Silica compound also is very wear resistant, so it provides a long life, and also increases wet grip as well. So
yeah, and that's the thing. One of the things that really impressed me about the PR4s is I almost feel like they're better in the rain than they are in the dry. Because you're so used to a big drop off in tire performance when it starts raining. But I never felt. I felt just as confident with my PR4s in the rain as I do when the road's completely bone dry. So that's really the thing that really popped out to me was their wet performance.
Yeah. Well, in that case, our engineers and test riders have done their job extremely well, because what we want is we want you, the consumer, regardless of which tire you choose within the Michelin range, we want you to feel comfortable, confident, and safe on Michelins regardless of the conditions. So that's great.
Yeah.
Glad you like them.
Yeah. They really are fantastic tires.
They're good.
And in the work that I do, I get an opportunity to ride a lot of different motorcycles. I get an opportunity to use a lot of different products.
Yeah.
So, for me to want to buy a set of tires instead of waiting for the next manufacturer to need a set tested or to go on a road test or something like that, that says a lot to me. I buy what I believe in, which
That's
is
good.
what a lot of riders do.
Awesome. Yeah.
The new tires that you guys have just started getting out into the world are the Power RS tires,
correct.
Though, right?
Yeah, correct. And that's a sport premium tire. So for the sport bike rider that's focused on, their primary focus is dry grip without a sacrifice on wet grip, and still good durability, good mileage. But again, that type rider with a sport bike, very aggressive sport riding on street with the occasional track day, that's what we target that Power RS for.
All right, so that's going to be, in the BMW world, that's going to be a lot of the S1000R and RR riders.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I would imagine that the XR riders, if they're looking for more sport performance rather than sport touring,
correct,
are going to be able to use that tire too.
Correct.
So what's different about the RS, the Power RS, from other kind of sport tires that we might find out in the world?
For us, the Power RS is new. It comes in on the top of our sport premium tire offer. It features an adaptive casing technology plus. So that's a construction ply where we have one casing ply that goes across the center of the tire there. It has a very high turn up that comes up on the sidewall. So what we're able to do is provide a very supple top casing that improves straight line stability, and then a very strong sidewall so that when you're at lean angle, varies to full lean angle, the sidewall of the tire has a lot of stability in it to prevent any type of movement in the sidewall. So
right, to get rid of that, sometimes you see those wiggles in the curve.
Yeah, and that's not what, it doesn't feel good, and you don't want to see that. So So the tire has the casing construction to help minimize that and improve performance. We also feature on the front tire the 2-compound technology, which is a technology we use in a lot of our products. It's not the same technology, it's the same theory. So we might use 2CT on a sport touring tire for higher mileage, more durable wear, but on a sport bike tire we would use 2CT to provide more performance at a lean angle and increase grip and side grip, lateral grip, and so on. The Power RS tires feature 2CT Plus. So there we have that center rubber compound that's more durable, goes underneath the shoulder compound to again reinforce the tire to minimize any squirm or movement and to provide a very firm, planted, and confident feel for the rider.
So if I'm getting this correctly, you use more than one compound as the position of the compound on the tire changes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for example, you talked about the Pilot Road 4. We feature this on the front tire. It is 50% of the tire in the center is, let's call it a medium compound.
Sure.
And on the shoulder, 25% on each side is a softer, more high traction rubber compound. In the center of the rear tire, you feature a very durable, wear-resistant compound for that straight, those long mileage across the country, right? 20% is the most durable. And then on the shoulder of each side of the rear Pilot Road 4, you feature a medium compound that you find in the center of the front tire. So in fact, there's 3 different tread compounds on the 2 tires.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I don't know anything about how tires are manufactured, but that sounds like a pretty complex way to make a tire.
Yeah, it is.
It's just dumping some rubber into a mold and putting some steel inside it to reinforce
it's definitely different than the way my grandmother would make pound cake. You don't just mix up stuff and pour it in the mold and hope it comes out okay. There's a lot of technology. We index the tire casings, so it's a very automated process. All of the tire casings and tire casing plies are indexed so that they're in the same spot relative to one another on the tire. That helps promote the equal balance of the tire, so that it's not all of your casing plies. Some manufacturers don't take the time to index that, so sometimes they might end up with casing plies that are in the same spot, so that might create a heavier spot on the tire.
Sure.
So it's our intention to create a tire that needs minimal balancing, so we do that. And speaking about the rubber compounds on our Michelin Power RS tires, we integrate a silica rubber compound in the center of the tire to again provide that durability and that wet grip for straight line braking and so on. And then on the shoulder sides, the shoulder areas of the Power RS tires, we use a carbon black rubber compound. So there we're using 2 different compound technologies. That carbon black is exceptionally good dry grip, so we go back to what that sport bike rider is looking for. So we develop a tire to suit that consumer.
Cool. And I know you guys have facilities all over the world. So do you know much about where the motorcycle tires are made or where those Michelin factories are?
Oh, sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah, you're right. Michelin is a global company, and though we are Michelin North America and Michelin Motorcycle Tires Division, all of our tires are manufactured in Michelin facilities in different parts of the world. So all of our radial tires are manufactured in Spain.
Okay.
And all of our bias ply tires are manufactured in Michelin facility in Thailand.
Okay.
So we source there for our global distribution.
So another thing that I wanted to ask you about was Michelin's recent return to MotoGP. They've been out of racing for a little while. And MotoGP's been going with different tires, and I know those things kind of are cyclical. So tell us a little bit about Michelin's involvement with MotoGP, how those tires maybe are the same as what we might put on a street bike or different. Now, obviously, I know that a bike that goes on a 500cc MotoGP Prime, bike is not going to be. It's not going to be like the PR4s that I put on my GS. There's going to be some commonalities because tires are tires, and at some level they share characteristics. But how do you approach kind of that arena as opposed to the typical street rider or off-road rider that's using, Anakis or Power RSs.
I think you touched on the key point, which is the similarities or the common ground between there. Our return to MotoGP is primarily because they were changing from 16.5-inch tires and going to 17-inch tires.
Okay.
So, just case in point, we can much more quickly use MotoGP as an R&D lab, an extension of our R&D that we do in France, and develop 17-inch tires through MotoGP that can then trickle down technology to 17-inch tires for sport touring applications. So
it's a more when the sizes match.
Yes, exactly right. It's more of a one-to-one. Now those tires are considerably different. Some people think, like a sport bike rider might think, if I could get my hands on a MotoGP tire, that would be so great. But the average sport bike rider on the average sport bike could never generate enough forces to bring that tire up to temperature,
right,
to make that casing flex enough. It's just not possible. And one of the benefits, though, again, is the use of multiple compounds. So you might have in MotoGP, they have sometimes symmetrical tires, meaning that the left side and the right side have the same compound. There's some circuits to where they spend a lot more time on the left side versus the right side. So it might have 3 to 5 different compounds on the tire, and they might vary going from left edge to right edge. So a lot goes into that. So we make a specific tire oftentimes for a specific track.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is a huge investment, but we learn from that. We always learn from that. We learn through success, and we learn through unsuccess sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and it makes sense too that you would develop a tire that works better on a circuit that has 12 lefts and 7 rights than
exactly
one that
right.
has 10 and 10.
Exactly right. And there's differences in even though it is a slick tire, with the exception of the intermediates or the rains, the Michelin Power slick tire might vary the thickness of the tread rubber. Okay, I know it's still a slick, but the thickness of the tread rubber might also vary. You might have a little bit thinner rubber on the left side to keep it to run cooler, and then on the right side it might be a little bit thicker to provide a little more insulation, so that when you do go to those right-hand turns, this tire's still holding some heat. So that's pretty much the basics that I know of it, from my exposure to it. Obviously, our primary responsibility is promoting and selling and marketing our commercially available products.
Right.
But I'm a fan of MotoGP as well.
I can't walk into my local dealer and buy MotoGP slicks.
Exactly right.
Even if I had a sport bike.
And we can't go into the Yamaha dealership and get Rossi's bike either. So it's same. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. That's one of the cool things about BMW is the S1000RR that people race. I know a lot of guys that have gone into a dealership, bought an RR, and they take out the lights, they safety wire it up, and they put it on the track 2 weeks later.
Exactly.
Jorge Torres is the primary rider for Althea BMW Racing in World Superbike, and his RR obviously is far and above what normal people ride, but it's not technologically. It's more advanced, but it's not all that different. All the things that he has on his bike are things that you can buy on that bike. That's one of the cool things about the RR platform is that race technology trickles down really quickly. The Shift Assist Pro is one of the, if you've never ridden a BMW that has that on it, if you know somebody, you got to try it out because it's the coolest thing. You just, other than first and second and back and forth, you never have to touch the clutch.
Really? Yeah.
Up or down.
Wow.
It's truly amazing. And it's weird too, the first time you pound down from 6th to 2nd and you never touch the clutch.
That's good, yeah.
It's really cool.
It is amazing how much racing technologies do quickly make it to the end user, and I think it's great that whether it's a motorcycle manufacturer or a tire manufacturer that they make that as quickly as we can for the consumer. And it's like ABS and traction control.
Exactly.
It's saved a lot of lives and made motorcycles a lot more fun, I think.
Yeah.
So
other than dirt riding, which I know is your earliest experience, and I think we all kind of stick to whatever it is we do first. That's kind of the thing that we grow up really doing. My first motorcycling experiences were on the back seat of a friend's bike or something like that. So I'm practically completely street.
Yeah.
And the dirt fascinates me, but it scares me a little bit too, you know. So when you're not on the dirt, you know, what kind of riding is available in South Carolina where you guys live?
We're based in Greenville, South Carolina. I have a boring 19-mile commute to work each day, so that's definitely not fun on my bike, just straight up the interstate and straight back. But luckily, not only myself, but each one of the coworkers that I have in our motorcycle division, we all actively ride, you know, and whether it's a GS 1200 or if it's the Moto Guzzi, it's a Triumph Street Triple, Harley Davidson. I'm thinking of the different bikes that coworkers have. We oftentimes take a long lunch ride up to North Carolina, and a great little pizza place up there, and there's some nice curvy roads. We're not far from the Blue Ridge Parkway, so some beautiful riding there.
Yeah, I live relatively close to that
nice
too.
Curvy roads to get there, not too far from the Tail of the Dragon. So yeah, we have some variety, and blessed to have pretty quick access to them.
Well, and it's really great that not every company that makes things for motorcycles has people that ride motorcycles involved in getting those products to the consumer.
Correct.
So it's really cool to hear that, you know, you guys in the two-wheel division, you all ride.
Yeah, I've been in the two-wheel division since the mid-90s, and it's by no means a requirement to ride motorcycles to be a part of our group, but I definitely think it adds value to it when you share that passion that consumers have for riding. It's much easier for us to get up every day and go to work excited about doing a better job, and because we speak the language, we live it and breathe it, and it's great.
Yeah, and that's really going to help you get these ideas across to people when you go to trade shows, when you go to big rallies like we have every summer. Being able to talk to a motorcyclist like a motorcyclist wants to talk to you, makes a huge difference, and it creates a level of trust too between rider and supplier of the equipment.
Yeah, I don't think, within Michelin world, for example, we're on the same floor of the building as our agriculture and earth mover division. I know nothing about that. And then down the other way from us is our aviation group, and I've got over 1 million miles with Delta, but I know nothing about airplanes. So, and I think that there's segments of tires where if it's for your minivan or your SUV or things like that, I don't think there's passion associated with it. It's performance matters, safety matters, that's for sure. But the average car owner probably looks at buying a set of tires as a burden, whereas I think a motorcycle owner should, if they don't, they should look at buying a set of tires as an opportunity, to add performance and enhance their experience on a motorcycle. And so I think it's a positive thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Whenever I just had to put a set of tires on my wife's car, and I was like, and you kind of think, okay, well, I'm going to spend the least amount possible for the longest life. And I don't think about it, but I get excited when it's time for new motorcycle tires. I can look and see, here's these. Do I want to try a set of Power RSs? Do I want to stick with the tried and true PR4s?
Because you can evaluate for a car tire. You can evaluate. I want a longer lasting tire, and I want a safe tire. But nothing really makes driving a minivan a lot more exciting, right? Unless it's a rental. But, anyway.
I always think of that scene in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yep.
Driving somebody else's car is always more fun than driving your own.
Exactly.
But we always treat each other's motorcycles with respect, of course.
For the most part. For the most part, yes.
Well, listen, Randy, I really appreciate you taking time to come and talk to us. And I'm looking forward to the stuff that Michelin comes out with for motorcycles in the future. And I absolutely wish you guys all the success with MotoGP and the new Power RSs. Very exciting stuff.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, we are excited about some new items coming for 2018 and beyond. Have some great news, and again, we will continue to promote the current products and continue to develop, just like Michelin. You talk about MotoGP. Michelin used our involvement in racing. It's where we developed the very first radial motorcycle tire.
Awesome.
So we were the first to market with that, both in racing and commercially available. That type racing is where we developed the 2-compound technology. So we're first to use that in racing, first to use that in commercially available as well. So we continue to push the envelope and provide the best and most safe products we can for customers.
Awesome. And those of us who ride on them appreciate it.
All right. Cool.
All right, man. Have a good summer.
All right. Thank you very much. Will do.
The tires Randy mentioned in that discussion, which took place in July, are finally out, and we can talk about them at length now. The Pilot Road 5 tires are available from your Michelin dealer, and they look to be every bit as great as the PR4s were and a little bit better to boot. Michelin updated the siping that channels water away from the contact patch when it's wet, and updated the compounds used to make the tires to boost grip, stability, and handling. Right now, they're available in a variety of sport and sport touring sizes as long as you have a 17-inch wheel on your bike. Michelin says the GT and Trail versions will be out in 2019. So if, like me, you've been using the Pilot Road Trail, you got a bit of a wait ahead of you, but at least you can still get the PR4 Trail version until then. Sign up for our mailing list at tinyletter.com/chasingthehorizon to see a super cute photo of 4-year-old Randy on his first bike. It's a Yamaha Mini Enduro. It's a super cute Polaroid photo. You can also get links pertaining to this episode and download the Pilot Road 5 brochure. I'll put the link to that in there too. Because this podcast is produced by the BMW Motorcycle Owners of America, in every episode I will highlight one benefit of being a member. I admit it's an enticement to get you to our website and get you to join for at least 1 year. I've been a member since 1999 and have used the member benefits to my advantage countless times since then, especially the roadside assistance program that I sign up for every year. But that's not what I'm going to tell you about today. Today, it's all about the BMW Performance Center, and specifically the BMW US Rider Academy, which Randy mentioned in our discussion. I had the pleasure of spending an afternoon there back in August during BMW's press launch of the new K1600 Bagger, but we spent our visit driving cars, not riding motorcycles. It's an amazing facility, and I know several dozen people that have gone through the Rider Academy classes, both their on- and off-road classes. They have 7 dedicated motorcycle instructors, and you can take the courses on your bike or theirs. They have 1- and 2-day classes, and any course you take there is eligible for a $250 scholarship from the MOA Foundation's Paul B program, of course, provided that you're an MOA member. Members of the MOA also get a 15% discount off the Rider Academy courses, and prices start at $635 for the 1-day off-road basics class if you use your own bike. They also offer an all-women's off-road class, and they have 2 locations. The one Randy mentioned is in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and it's an easy 1- or 2-day ride from most locations east of the Mississippi River. The other location is in Thermal, California, and that's about 140 miles east of Los Angeles. Check out their website at bmwperformancecenter.com for full info, and check out our member discounts page at bmwmoa.org/member discounts for more info on how to get your 15% discount for being an MOA member. All the links I mentioned in this episode will go out in an email from our mailing list. You can sign up for the mailing list at tinyletter.com/chasingthehorizon. Signing up for the mailing list won 3 people copies of a cool motorcycle film on DVD, and you never know what drawings will happen in the future. I want to thank you for coming back for the 11th episode of Chasing the Horizon, which featured a discussion with Randy Richardson of Michelin Tires. Our next episode will feature Paul Gillian, the CEO of Touratech USA. That episode will be out on January 8th. Andrew Finberg composed and recorded our theme music. Karen Hawker designed our logo. Thanks again to all our guests and listeners for giving us their time. We'll see you out there somewhere on the road, or off it. Ride safe.